Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into today's show. I'm super thrilled to welcome Jian Lian onto today's Think BRICS show with us. So, Jian Lian is a Chinese economist that is focused on BRICS and global South cooperation. He is a graduate of Peking University's National School of Development, as well as he's worked across major Chinese institutions, including the National Venture Capital System, and witnessed the rise of China's new EV industry from the inside out. He later founded Hangse Economic Research, which is a think tank that's dedicated to BRICS and Global South strategies. He's also, today, he works across Eurasia, areas like the Middle East and Africa, helping partner countries reduce dependence on Western monetary systems and connect with Chinese industrials' capacity. Since 2023, he has participated in key economic and industrial forums in China and BRICS nations, where many of his proposals have already been put into practice. Thank you so much, Jian Lian, for joining us today.
Thank you, Benjamin. It's nice to meet with you here in Think BRICS.
Absolutely, and likewise. So, I want to start our conversation sort of the China's dollar bonds as sort of a strategic signal, right? So in November of 2024, right before Trump was going to enter the White House, China issued a $2 billion bond in Saudi Arabia that was subscribed nearly 20 times over and priced only about 1 to 3 basis points above U.S. Treasury bonds. This was launched in Riyadh, which is the heart of the petro-dollar system. And I want to get your take. Do you see this bond issue as sort of a simple financial test for the Chinese, or do you see it as a broader strategy to use the dollar against itself?
Well, yes, understand that there are lots of discussion at that time. I mean, November last year about this move. Okay, that China's out of an MOF issues, not big, but just 2 billion US dollars bonds in Riyadh, which is you can call it heart of the Gulf kingdoms. And I should say that not only the foreigners, even many of the Chinese, how to say that Chinese analysts, especially those non-official analysts, was trying to figure out some strategic moves behind this, and whether it's like as you said about using dollars against itself. Uh, my suggestion and my understanding is that just as maybe some topics we will later talk about, that I think that it would be better to how to say not overcomplicated this. So because China is not a single entity, so there could be someone who really wants to get rid of the dollar hegemony, and there is also some officials that is more skeptical about it and more conservative. So when our Chinese office launched this move, the official explanation, particularly from MLF and PBOC, is that this move is to how to say leverage the dollar liquidity overseas, and also at the same time how to say that making a more complete interest rate curve of the Chinese official or benchmark interest rate curve. So that is their explanation. And personally, I think that that explanation is all. Is that I don't think that MOF of China or PBOC have intention to use some kinds of very smart strategy using dollar against dollar itself. But I'm not sure that maybe some others will, I mean, even higher officials have other thinking, just like what our Chinese, our unofficial analysts hinted, and some of our foreign analysts hinted. So that is, I think that particularly, I wish that this question could be a hint for our later topic is about, okay, who is China, and whether there is a different fraction or opinions on China, particularly on the dollar Chinese yuan, including competition issues on here. So okay, so that is my basic understanding of these events, which has already passed 1 year. Okay.
Yeah, thank you for that. And you were mentioning too about sort of there are a multitude of ways that analysts are sort of understanding what the Chinese are doing in Riyadh right now. Do you think that China is like truly aiming to become the world's main currency, or the albeit if they do that, it's gonna mean they have to give up protections of capital controls, right? That would be one of the main tenets of being a reserve currency, or would it to be a build enough financial independence so that the yuan is a strong alternative for that protects China from United States financial pressure?
Okay, so I think that is a key question. That's a key question: how to understand China. And as you put, that what China really wants for yuan. I think that I can give you some answers for different factions in China. Okay, for our national leader, top national leader, okay, President Xi, and he definitely wants that just with the rise or a great renaissance of China's civilization, that Chinese currency or Chinese yuan, renminbi, should be enjoy or have the deserved position in the world. And what is most important that is that I think Chinese yuan is the most strong productivity backed currency in the world today. I should say that, in my opinion, is much stronger, much solid than today's U.S. dollar. Today's U.S. dollar actually is very largely fictitious and serve for the speculation on stock market and other speculative financial market, including the crypto asset. But China is totally on the opposites. So in this meaning that with the Chinese yuan, okay, you can buy almost everything. Okay, firstly, the industry products globally, because almost on every industry product, more than 15% of them was now produced in China, and sometimes 100%. And also, you can use Chinese yuan to buy commodity, either from Russia or from Brazil, and also actually for the oil, you can buy from many of the oil producing countries, and also gradually you can buy using Chinese yuan from the Middle East kingdoms. And even I suppose one day from United States, oh, it's possible, but there is a long way. So I think that our national leader, as he's a super confident on other affairs, he's a super confident on Chinese yuan. However, in China, our ruling structure, our government structure, our state structure is very, because we are a super big country. So we was put into a very dedicated system. So on the currency affair, for example, on the monetary issues, on the foreign exchange issues, and Chinese yuan's internationalization issues, there was supposedly some bureaucrats responsible for that. That is mainly our PBOC and People's Bank of China, which is Chinese central bank officials, plus some of the major state-owned banks, commercial banks in China. For example, there are five major, very big commercial banks in China. So they were supposed to be responsible to, how to say, pushes the Chinese international use. Particularly, I should emphasize, as you mentioned about the how to say, the capital accounts regulation. Okay, so actually, Chinese yuan's internationalization, I think, firstly should serve for in China called the real economy. Real economy includes the real goods trade and service trades, not include the financial markets, but also including loans giving. I mean, for example, China give African loans. Now it should be in Chinese yuan, and then the Chinese engineer companies go outside to earn this Chinese yuan and leaving those infrastructure in Africa. That is a very standard model. But previously, all such circulation is US dollar. China, Africa through US dollar. It's ridiculous. Now Chinese yuan. So I think that from our perspective, our national leaders' view, that the internationalization of Chinese yuan should be firstly serving for these real economy purpose. Okay, so that basically that is not relating much to the so-called capital control or something like that. In fact, I should emphasize this concept itself, capital, how to say that, capital control, a capital account control, is actually how to say that. It's a not a very old thing. It's a standard which just emerged, particularly after 1980s. If you look at the year before 1985 or 1986, Japan, which is already a very developed country at the time, industry countries at the time, they have slowly capital control. Their, including their security markets, their bonds markets, their stock market is not freely, enter or flow out, not allowed. And that is actually a neoliberalism, so-called neoliberalism bomb, a big bombs in London and later in Tokyo, and linked it to New York, Tokyo, London, and then of course a smaller version, Frankfurt, become a global financial capitalism. And but they transplant this concept into the heads of many economists after this generation from 1980s, that this should be a precondition for international currency or reserve currency. Actually, it's ridiculous. If you go back to Bretton Woods system, if you ask Harry White, the people founded this Bretton Woods system on dollar hegemony, or ask Keynes, who is fighting with him but will try to maintain a pound sterling's hegemony, they will find it ridiculous. Because if you go there from 1930s or 1940s, 1950s, all these countries have capital control. And what is most important today is actually for the how to say that to make convenience of the trades, to get rid of the unnecessary inconvenience or even threats of from the or even weaponization of the old hegemonic currency. That is important. So that is Chinese yuan should do. And our national leader 100% stand on this. So if you're looking at back on also in Saudi Arabia, it's 2022, December 2022. So when China is about to open the gates to the outside world, uh, our national leader go to Saudi Arabia to attend the China-Saudi summit, China Arabian League summit, and China Gulf, Gulf Council 6 days union. In that event, our national leader really pushes the boost for Chinese yuan's internationalization, serving for real economy. Also, he mentioned about some new technology called MBridge, which is a digital Chinese yuan's international parts of that. So that is our attitude of Chinese national leader. However, if you're looking at our PBOC officials and some, I don't know our MLF's attitude, but PBOC I'm almost certain, and many of our big banks like ICBC or BOC is Bank of China, or CCB, China Construction Bank, these officials' attitude, particularly on international affairs, I think just because they are so-called financial professional, so they will be inclined to maintain a status quo, not change. And as for example, taking the case of Russian trade issues, that they are very afraid of the U.S. Sanction threats. For example, Yellen comes to China on 2024 to on 2000, yes, 2024, early 2024, to give warnings to PBOC, to lead state banks and some of the smaller banks, who including one bank who is used to very active in the serving for the payment trade for the Russian in 2023. And then those super big banks is already they already try to avoid dealing with Russia on payment issues, and they definitely will prohibit the transaction of Chinese yuan with them. And the smaller bank, which used to be very active, now also have to stop. So and then you'll see in 2024 is that it seems once a time that U.S. sanction threats make some works. So I should say that this example just giving how to say give you a look into these people's heart, how they what they're thinking about. So actually, I know some of these officials, including some dialogue with BRICS, officials. You mentioned about the Brazilian economist Paulo. He had the conference with us on this issue also. So just on this conference, there is a very high, I should say, very high level official institute, official policy bank economist. Fortunately, he's retired, but his attitude is showing the attitude of this class of officials. They are basically, I could summarize this. They are very inconfident about a nation itself. It's so the older generation, I mean, very old generation economists or bankers is usually less confidential than new generation, and also much less confidential than their boss. I mean, President Xi Jinping. So that is a confident, insider confidence on China about how to say that what to do with our yuan. My attitude, and I believe that it is also our national leader's attitude, is very clear. It's time, and do not use the excuse of okay, for example, 20 years ago in 2005, 2007. Actually, that is a peak of globalization. That's at that time when these bankers, I mean these old generation bankers, they are actually some inventor of certain Chinese yuan mechanism at the time. They feel it's very difficult to push because the world is used adapted to dollars. So they find that some circulation mechanism may be very hard to implement it, but that is the past. You should not thinking that today when you try to offer yuan, they still reject it. No, just looking at the African countries, maybe you have noticed that Kenya has asking to convert it. Used to be a China very important railway related debt, convert it to U.S. dollar to from U.S. dollar to Chinese yuan, and hence it could lowering the interest rate a great because today Chinese yuan's interest rate is much lower than U.S. dollar. So China proved that. And I should say Kenya is very smart. So he firstly give a national head visit, state visit, right? Their president William Ruto to China, and then after 4 months, their financial ministry, the financial ministry pushed this proposal, and then was proved just I think 1 month plus, and everything settled. So we then Kenya with China enter a Chinese yuan period rather than a unnecessary US dollar period, which is a suffer from the shortage of US dollar. Okay, and then later, I believe that Kenya could continue to use the yuan mechanism to make the accumulated debt flexible and actually optimize it, restructure it, and then further pushes the continued construction of other infrastructure, and that is beneficial China too, but beneficial for Kenya. So Kenya example is just a case showing that Chinese yuanization or renminbinization of a financial mechanism between China and developing country and global south is totally workable. And that is what our national leader wants. However, such I should say that win-win solution was not thought by the PBOC officials or I mean, so for example, other policy bank official in China. So that is a problem. And I know some of reason behind it, including besides the reason of some pro-Western attitude of PBOC officials, but there's also other reason. So I think it's time to push the yuan mechanism in the global south. Okay.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And I think that as China is pushing more and more towards internal internationalization of the RMB for
Yeah.
for this things like the Belt and Road Initiative amongst all other projects, it still comes with the caveat that China still holds billions or hundreds of
Mhm.
billions of dollars in U.S. Treasuries, which you could say is both leverage for ongoing negotiations with the United States, but it's also the fact that they hold all these dollars makes them that much more vulnerable to any sort of, financial sanctions risks or anything similar to such. And so,
Mhm.
for you, how do you see Chinese policymakers weigh the risk of being sort of held hostage to these dollar assets against their value sort of as a strategic tool? And what scenarios would you are considered really if the fine weaponization of the United States dollar and its systems intensifies?
Yes. Yes, that is important issues among the Chinese. How to say that currency mechanism with international in the international scenario. Okay, I should say that the so-called dollar reserve actually, well, there's a different measures. Okay, so amount of China's foreign exchange reserve is mainly in dollars. Actually, more than 70% are in dollars. However, amount of dollar reserve with China, the U.S. Treasury bonds holding is about, if I'm not wrong, is around 700 billion US dollar. And of course, overall, I mean, all other assets is not a treasury bonds, is altogether is I mean, measured in US dollar is about 3 trillion, yes, about around more than 3 trillion. So actually, if you're looking at the, how to say it, these numbers for the past, you can say 5 years or 6 years, actually, it is gradually declining. And I think that reflects attitudes, the top guidelines of our national leader. Definitely, our national leader knows that with his, our final goal is that we should set up truly as China is now, we can publicly saying a superpower. Okay, I should say 10 years ago, if you say China is a superpower, many Chinese will oppose that. But today, China is not, shy to saying about that. If you are a superpower country and you are systematic, your whole system, that you should also have your own independent system. And then your currency system should not based on foreign exchange. I mean, the issuing mechanism of your currency is not following you receive from export surplus or some kinds of balance surplus, foreign exchange, maybe other people's currency, and you issue a Chinese yuan corresponding to the the former holder of this currency. No, you should change the other internal, for example, bond mechanism, even like American system. Although our bond system is much with the physical assets. Okay, so for the remaining, I should say for the remaining dollars we hold in our hands, particularly the U.S. government issues bonds, the I think the attitude is very clear. It's gradually reduce them. And also, we know the risk of continue holding such amounts of dollars. It's just like Russia. Okay, so I think that Russian-Ukraine war has given Chinese everyone from our national leader to high officials to ordinary people a clear lessons that what will happen if you relies on others, financial value icons. Okay, that is just a paper. That's all. Not a paper actually. It's actually many of them. It's just a number in some accounts in in the register in the booking. Okay, so it could be frozen or wiped out overnight. So how can China relies on that? Although if it really wipe out, I should say that China is a super strong and industry like power, so we don't get much affected. But however, we have to think that is the balance accumulated. It could be a reflection of how we worked, okay, including the massive of goods we export. Okay, so now the attitude is very clear. It's gradually reducing. And whether to fasten it, I think that really depend on strategy. Personally, I think that the more geopolitical confrontation and the more fast will reduce. I personally don't think that will increase it. Of course, for the other parts of our so-called foreign exchange is in other forms. Even I can hint you actually that, for example, the loans to the African countries to build the railways actually constructed by ourselves. It's the how to say that the claims on these loans is also part of China's foreign exchange. And when it's renminbi-ized, it could still become the assets on China PBOC's balance sheet book, a part of it. So you can see that you gradual change. You can put into different category. So actually, I think that China does. Firstly, we don't pay much emphasis on this perspective. Not like in 1990s. In 1990s, that is at that time our we have Prime Minister called Zhu Rongji. He found that in 1990s China still needs a foreign exchange, the US dollar, and also that is a rising period of globalization. So we accumulated dollars at the time. However, after 2007, this methodology should be changed. And after 2016, when globalization is just dissolving, and this correspondent strategy is also changing. So I think that you mentioned this issue. It's a very very important issue, and China has fully realized it, particularly our national leader. Our internal, different opinion is just that some of the pro-Western PBOC officials will try to slowing down this process. However, I don't think that it will reverse this process.
Yeah, we're definitely at a point where not just the this trend of de-dollarization is not going back, right? Like the attitude is clear from investors and government officials alike. So how everyone continues to, promote their own national currencies, China and Russia and bilateral trade and everyone around the world, like this is a trend that's not stopping for, for anything really. And kind of shifting more towards from China now to the BRICS, in general, we've seen that there have been a multitude of proposals, not just actual like settlement mechanisms, alternatives to the SWIFT system, but promoting ideas of a BRICS currency per se. So like we have a former, new development bank vice president. He proposed that it be a simple BRICS basket currency, which is comparable to the special drawing requirements, right? That would be used to not replace national currencies, but constantly weighing this kind of basket of currencies would require like a complete full consensus, right? Any member could
Hmm.
effectively veto the progress if they were to go this route. So, in your
Hmm.
opinion, like, what are the technical issues or other issues behind the scenes that would block this proposal from an
Hmm.
expanded BRICS block here?
Okay. Yeah. So actually, that is a topic when you mentioned about how the former vice president or deputy governor of NDB, New Development Bank, or BRICS bloc. We have a discussion 10 days ago on Beijing, and I should say he proposed the idea, and also actually, as you said, he wrote how these articles about it and to analyze the pros and cons and also feasibility and its feasibility under today's BRICS mechanism and so on and so on. So let us put it into different, okay, maybe three topics. First topic is that okay, whether it's such you can compare to SDR or Banco, in Keynes time, Keynes, in when Bretton Woods conference was held, uh, Keynes, the British economist, proposed a unit for international settlement called Banco. Okay, and whether this international artificial made, okay, currency unit or settlement current monetary unit workable, and if it was created, how in large extent it could be used, and for what purpose, and how effective it is, and whether people want to use it. That's first part. Second part is that to push such agenda, what is the problem in current BRICS mechanism, particularly the New Development Bank and other, maybe financial mechanism among BRICS, including there is a mechanism never used called CRA, okay, which is wants to be BRICS IMF, but actually never used. I think maybe the third question is that how to say that if you really want to make it such a move, how to make it, and what to do with it, and what we can expect from the, let me borrow economics word, equilibrium or a steady state in at least in certain after certain period of time. What would be the results? Okay. So first question, my answer is that such artificially made international settlement units like today's SDR or formerly that not coming into being, the Banco, is very largely idealistic thing. Idealistic thing. That is, idealistic means that it has a good intention, but it's usually very very inconvenient to use. And the result is all the economic mechanism. Actually, economic mechanism, there's a competition. Okay. So people will choose, will compare with formerly in the Western system, okay, dollars or other formerly Deutsche Mark with SDR, okay, which is convenient. And including that, you want to raise some money, you raise the SDR denominated bonds or dollar denominated bonds or European currency denominated bonds. I think that my answer is very clear that the least idealistic made mechanism is in the natural born disadvantage position. That is it. Maybe for such currencies, owning position is could be in some international settlement. I mean, on very macro level, finals to try to curb the potential imbalance issues. It could be introduced in, and also from a very practical point of view for the BRICS cooperation side. Okay, so if you have invented such artificial, how to say that, basket composed currency unit, what would be the corresponding interest rate? For example, when you are adjusting the international imbalance, so for the deficit country, you need to borrow some of the amounts that is denominated in this artificial currency. So there could be an interest rate measured on it. What would be the interest rate on it? And based on today's BRICS country situation, outside China, China's interest rate is very low. Okay, for
Right.
example, it could be for NDB itself is issuing bonds in Chinese yuan with less than 2% interest rate. However, if you look at rubles, if you look at Brazilian reals, if you look at South African rands and also Indian rupees, their interest rates usually is above more than 10%. Okay, even once for Russia, it used to be 20%, 21% benchmark. Now it's going down, still higher than 10%. So why don't you? I should say that from rational man points of view, that we should admit that every country is a economic man, is a rational man.
Totally.
Yeah, they will use the low interest rate currency. They will not use artificially high interest rates currency units. Okay, so that is the first judgment. Second one is about NDB's mechanism, because NDB is the only institution, continue existing institution, daily operating under BRICS mechanism. Without NDB, BRICS is just a summit mechanism. It's a conference meeting after meeting. Okay, finished. Someone, I should say, some of my international government, I mean, some countries, government or friends tells me that BRICS look like a government-sponsored tourism. If nothing is achieved, just like conference after conference. Okay, so NDB hence is a very precious mechanism, which is institution every day exists. However, just as our friend Paulo mentioned that the so-called consensus mechanism make it almost unworkable. Yes, that is very very practical issues. I should say that the answer is very simple. Firstly, you have to change the articles on it to change from consensus. Particularly, I should can tell you, usually that India blocks many things inside
Right.
because India think that he needs to speculate among BRICS mechanism and America. Although
Right.
this year India was hit hard by America. Maybe I wish I changed his mind a little bit. But usually India always make mechanism and work. So in this way that I suggest that maybe you can find that some subsidiary mechanism, subsidiary institution, and putting many of the operation in a subsidiary entity, and then subsidiary entity should follow execution order, not like consensus, because as you said that European Union is dead because big countries, small countries, Germany and Estonia has to vote it has on same thing, so that will make this mechanism totally dead. Okay,
Right.
so even let me tell you, if that the BRICS institute like NDB wants to push some like a BRICS basket currency, so when I talk to Paulo, my suggestion is very simple. Firstly, if that particularly like Brazilian left wing comrades, okay, because Paulo belongs to the Brazilian left wing, they are very interested on this topic. Okay, then just put NDB a de facto issuer of such units. Okay, you NDB do that. If NDB itself is cannot issue such currency unit because of the block on consensus mechanism. Very simple. Set up a subsidiary, and you making a subsidiary to issue the BRICS version of SDR, currency artificial made currency unit, and then with that you can try to experiment whether it works. And if after 2 years or 3 years of experiment you can find out if it doesn't work, okay, just put it just like SDR. SDR today become a forgotten vehicle. Okay, and if it works, okay, then it works on certain function. Okay, so that is actually already saying my opinions on the solution to the current okay, totally unfunctional of NDB. Or I should say not functional. I should say that after the third president come to the position, that is Lady Rousseff, who is the former president of Brazil, we
Yep.
do see a lot of big change on operation of NDB, particularly on so-called the Chinese yuan bond issuing. Okay, that is money raising, and many of them in Chinese yuan. Now what we need to see is how to operation with this money to smartly giving loans or invest on certain strategic important project. Currently, this hasn't happened. We still see that it's putting into some mediocre project and still small amounts. We are still waiting to see the reform or change of NDB. Okay, so that is my opinion. Yeah.
No, this is all very interesting. I'm just sort of thinking about like because there's a lot of institutional reform, right? Not just that we're seeing both that's needed both from the BRICS side to deal with a more expanded bloc, but also what we're seeing from the weaponization of these Western institutions that we've seen are clearly biased towards Western political interests. And the one thing that we were sort of highlighting is sort of the credit rating system that is often used, like with Moody's and everything like that. And so this is sort of brought into emergence of a new BRICS credit rating model. So I guess
Hmm.
what I was really curious about is like, so suppose we make this new BRICS rating agency. So what would be like the actual like technical methodological changes that would be discussed within the bloc and in Beijing, and how would these different risk indicators better capture the strengths but also the vulnerabilities of developing economies that adopt this framework?
Yeah. You asked a very, I should say, interesting but also a very important question. It's about, I should say that credit rating agency is the heart of the America's financial hegemony. It's basically it makes that he is monopolize power on storytelling. Even those, I should say, those analysts, rating agencies have very little knowledge about something, but they can very proudly enter those the gates of these companies or governments and gates and discuss with the key men there, and just get pretend to be very super knowledgeable. Actually, they don't very little thing, and then writing reports which affecting the destiny of this company or this country. So that is a super financial power of the financial capitalism. So what I should say is that because the current system of including the three big credit rating agencies in USA, that its power is a historical involved created phenomenon. Actually, I should say that it is a bond together, growing together with America. This is relatively, or in the early 20th century, a super big financial market. So it is a result of the financial market evolution. So I think that a little hard to now create it artificially made another credit agency or something, but you can add it based on our, for example, China. We have several of the credit internal credit agency. Actually, I should say that from on physical meaning, I should say that their work, including speed or due diligence efforts, is no less than those American one, but with much cheaper, grading fees and so on. Of course, you mentioned about the models of such a grading rate agency business model. Okay, it's a dilemma. Can tell you, I didn't find any solution to that because that uh, the credit agency, the most possible revenue source is low for those issuers, those bond issuers. But if you get money, so naturally you will say some goods for it. Such phenomena also exists in China. I'm not I won't hide it. However, for American power, monetary power is he can disobey this pay and saying good words role in developing countries and also in China. Okay, in developing countries, he can publicly say receiving fees for those governments, for example, country, and give them very negative credit rating. And he prevent nothing will happen. So that is a reflection of a financial power hegemony. So my suggestion is that, particularly, from on recent 2 years, the AI model is developing very fast. Actually, I should say that, although personally, I don't think that today's big language model AGI could solve all of things. No, but it's indeed very good at information already existed, the language or other graphic information collection and analyze. It could make the analyze super fast in traditional way. My suggestion is that there could be a cooperation between Chinese credit agency. There are three or four, with Russian one, with for example Brazilian, with Indonesian, the new BRICS members, they join in and using AIs, to foster a web, a mutual reference web. So in this way, that I should say that it could be give those including those issuance entity and the potential financial investor ourselves more reference on, okay, what is this entity's credit history and its performances, and so on and so on, and plus adding some of the policy consideration, because China is very successful on many of the industry development because we follow some industry policy. So that is not the pro cycle. We are usually anti cycle. For example, this company needs a support, so you need boost, not just when it was suffer from something and you just hit it from credit rating, make it more negative. No,
Right.
take it to anti the cycle and make the economic running more, actually more strategical. Okay, so that is my idea. So I think that basically is making use of latest technology and adding that to the existing domestic, our domestic credit agency, and giving loans. And by the way, I should emphasize that bond is not everything. Okay, and for the developments among the BRIC countries, particularly using Chinese productivity and channeling into the BRICS countries and other global South countries. Okay, so actually all mechanisms should be used. Personally, I think that in China, let me tell you one very big difference between China and America, in our monetary and financial mechanism, is that even we have bonds since developed bond mechanism since 2005, which now making China the second largest bond market in the world. However, there's a very, very big difference that China's bond buyer is actually banks. So if a bond was purchased by a bank, and it has equivalent to bank issue some loans to this entity. No difference in monetary nature. So in this way, that many of China we create lots of new currency into this entity, because in the monetary mechanism, actually, in this way, I'm very consistent with modern monetary theory that loan creates deposit, is loan create money. So bond purchasing by banks is also creating money. So in this way, that what the global south and China needs is not that China we have some money already existing, we move from bond to the, for example, Tanzania or Ethiopia or Uganda. No, is that we created some Chinese, monetary unit, for example, Chinese yuan loans or bonds issuing by Tanzania, purchased by Policy Bank China or NDB. And so that is a new money was created and into Tanzania, and Tanzania could use that to purchase the Chinese, engineering service and construction, process, and make it modernization in very efficient way and with super low interest rate. So in this way, that it was copy the Chinese way of construction in our provinces, particularly our western provinces. So the highest bridges in the world are all existing in one southwestern Chinese province called Guizhou. So this model should move to Africa to create the engineer order for Chinese company and also generate hiring and employment opportunities in global south. So Chinese bring management skills and technology and equipment there, hiring the global south, and there's Chinese yuan circulated like this, and then with modernization, development to these countries. So I think that is a basic mechanism. So all kinds of mechanisms be used, not only bonds, but also loans, but also currency swap, which is actually also loan. So that is my thinking on this topic.
That is, yeah, that is a very fascinating proposal. Of, like you said, that way, it's just a positive. It's just a loop. It'll only get more and more, snowball effect as they initiate that more in Tanzania. For your example, it'll only get more and
Yeah.
more use. But that's a very fascinating proposal. But I do have to conclude today's interview. I do want to thank you so much, Jian Lian, for joining us today. For everyone watching, please be sure to hit like and subscribe for if you want to see more recommended content like this and to have Jian Lian back. I loved having him here. This was an awesome discussion. Please be sure to follow him too at Hangsa Economic Research too for his own policy proposals and updates. And is there anywhere else that people can find your work, by the way?
Actually, if you search my name and Hunter, okay, it's Henece. So you can see many of my information, including some videos. Some of videos is come from some conference held in Russia because I give some suggestion during their different economic topic events. Even I talked to the officials saying that if Russia wants a fast development, what kinds of mechanism they can from China. So actually, you can receive from that on you see in YouTube. You can hear some English original voice or a Russian translated version. So yes, you can see that. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and everyone, please be sure to watch that and listen to his thoughts because this has been a fascinating discussion. I know I'm going to be watching it too once this conversation's done. But anyway, thank you again, Jian Lian, for joining us, and thank you everyone for watching. And we'll talk to you again soon.
My pleasure. Thank you.